Welcome, everyone. This is the Danville Redevelopment Commission February 11, 2021 regular meeting. We'll call this meeting to order, and if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. Thank you very much. Little board business, commission business here. We have minutes to approve from October 2020, November 2020, and December 2020. We do have a quorum. Mr. Aiken, Ms. Monk, and myself, Ben Comer. Linda Monk was not on the board last year, so we'll be abstaining from voting on these minutes. Yes? I
would move to approve the 3 sets of minutes from previous year.
We have a motion to approve, and I will second that motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Gary, I'm going to sign these and send them down to you.
Okay. In front of me.
Next order of business is to approve the meeting schedule for 2021. No schedule has been presented to us. I will ask the board members, the commission members, if you have a preference on day of the month. Okay.
I'd have to look. I'm sorry.
I must not have printed that page. I apologize. Thank you. It's not.
It was sent to me.
It was sent to you? Oh. It's not in there either.
But this.
Does that happen to be the... Anyone? And does the second Thursday of the month, Gary, continue to work for you?
I think so.
Linda, does that schedule work for you?
30 still a good time?
Works for me. Greg Van Leer.
You have one provisional date where November 11th, November meeting was moved to the
Veterans Day.
So with that, do we have a motion to approve the schedule then?
So moved.
As presented. I have a motion and a second to approve the schedule as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next order of business for the commission is the election of officers for the 2021 calendar year. Any discussion? Does anybody want to chair the commission?
This is the deer in the headlight, like, no.
I would nominate Ben Comer for the continuance of his position.
A little bit of discussion. I'm willing to do it, but certainly not, I am open to discussion and open to anyone else who wants to chair this commission to step forward. So, Greg? Any comments or thoughts?
I didn't even hear that bus coming.
All right. We have a motion for Ben Comer to serve as the chair for the 2021 season. All opposed or all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain. It's motion carries.
Was that a Freudian slip? All those opposed?
Yes, I was trying to fool them. We need to elect a vice chair.
Move for Greg Van Leer to be vice chair.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Van Leer to be the vice chair and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And I believe we do have a secretary, yes?
That appointed, just me, I think.
Yes, and we would let the record reflect that we would like to have Mr. Aiken serve as secretary for the 2021 calendar year. Okay. All right then. Moving on down the agenda under items for discussion, I'd like to rearrange the order in which these appear and allow our guests to have the floor at this time. Mr. Moore.
Good evening, thank you. Newly elected chairperson. Thank you. Good evening, my name is John Moore. I'm an attorney. My office is at 50 South Meridian Street in Indianapolis. Here tonight on behalf of D.R. Horton. And with me is Chris McKinney with D.R. Horton and Lisa Claghorn with D.R. Horton. And we appreciate you taking the time to let us come here this evening to speak briefly to you. We want to talk to you tonight about a mixed-use development that D.R. Horton is proposing on the west side of town across from the Casey's and the high school on the Miles Farm. It's approximately 388 acres. And D.R. Horton has filed an application to annex that property into the town of Danville, as well as to rezone that property to planned unit development. That petition for rezoning is set to be heard by the Danville Plan Commission on March the 8th, and then go before the Danville Town Council on March the 17th. On the 17th, the Town Council will also consider the petition for annexation, as well as the fiscal study with respect to the annexation. So what we're going to do tonight, and we'll keep this brief, I appreciate your time, is I'm going to give a brief overview of the development, some of the mixed use we have. I've got a few handouts I'm going to give to you here. Then I'm going to turn it over to Chris McKinney. He's going to discuss some of the utilities that are going to serve the project from the town of Danville. And then I'll let Lisa step up here, and she's got some information to pass along the economic impact that this will have on the town with respect to assessed value, tax base, and so forth. And then we'll be happy to answer any questions you have about the development. And then lastly, what we would like to request, if you saw it fit, would be some type of support or letter of support for the project, if that was something that you would be willing to do. So with that, I'm going to hand out items here.
Great question. I have two.
Thank you.
John?
So what you have here in front of you is, like I said, it's the Miles Farm out on the west side of town. And about 388 acres across from the high school, across from Casey's. What Horton is proposing here is a mixed-use development, and that mixed use is comprised of commercial, multifamily, single-family, a sports park, and an amenity park. And what I'll do is I will start here on this bubble sheet, and I'm going to start how the development would progress, and that's from the east to the west. This is a project, it's reasonable estimate would be an 8 to 10 year build out for this, starting sometime late 2022 probably is when, or when you see the first home out there, possibly. But the development would start from the east and moved to the west. So if we look there on the eastern part of your plan, you'll see in the southeast corner, we have 28.86 acres reserved for a sports field, and we're working on an athletic field house there at that site. That has come from some feedback. We've met with the Danville Chamber of Commerce about what their input into this, as well as some other community individuals. And we heard a message back that there's a need for additional sports fields and possibly a field house if that's possible. So we've been working with Kelly DiBenedetto at the Chamber of Commerce about trying to secure that for that site. So we've set aside that 28 acres for that. North of the sports fields and athletic field house would be our estates homes. Those would be our larger lots. Those homes would be in a price range of approximately $325,000 to $425,000. In that area, we've got 165 single-family dwellings currently planned for that area. Then moving to the west, the reserve area. The reserve homes, those homes are going to be, we would estimate, in the $275,000 to $325,000 range. And we have 140 single-family dwellings shown in this plan. South of the reserve area there, sort of in the yellow, is an amenity center of approximately 25 acres, walking paths, some open areas, an open amphitheater type area for people to congregate, people to relax, enjoy that open space. And then south of that, next to the sports field and athletic field house, is a 5.59 acre business park. Right now, possible use there would be some type of assisted living facility. Possibly that's sort of a good size for that. We've had some interest there, but there's really been no ultimate commercial user identified there. I also need to point out, as part of the sports field and athletic field house area, we have set aside and agreed that there will be space that we will donate to the for a fire station there to be located on that site. And Chris can talk a little bit about that. He's had some meetings, discuss that with the fire marshal. That area we just discussed would be generally the first phase. So that's where we would start and begin with that development first before moving on to the west. Next phase would include the villas. The villas there in the north, that's 33.44 acres. Those are two-family homes that we would build. There's 93 lots there, 186 units in that area. South of that is the preserve. The preserve are 303 single-family dwellings proposed. The preserve is roughly 94 acres, and those homes would be in the $225,000 to $275,000 to $275,000 range there. Then the area that's labeled parks, 65.56 acres. The parks, there are 200 single-family homes. What's unique about that area is that all of those homes will be owned by a single entity. So there'll be single-family homes with yards, so forth, but it'll be owned by a single entity that then rents those homes, leases them out. And Horton has had some experience in other areas of the country with some success that, one, we're seeing younger professionals, younger folks not really interested in buying a home, but they want to live in a single-family home. So that provides that opportunity to rent that home. Two, also gears towards a single-family mother, or a single father out there with kids, single mother with kids. It would be a draw for someone that would like to have a yard and a home, but not live in an apartment and not buy a single-family home. The flats there in the yellow, those are apartments. Currently have 500 apartment units designated for that area. It's about 29 acres. And you can see on the conceptual layout how those buildings would lay out there for the apartments. And then south of that, at the far western edge, is 11.12 acres reserved for a business park. We've had input from Chamber of Commerce, some folks with the town, community members that uses people would like us to try to draw to that area would be restaurant, for a rural king, maybe we've received some interest from a high-end convenience store gas station. It's a company called Leo's that they've put a few in around the central Indiana that are very nice. Could also be some boutique uses. Could be your, nail salon, little strip center type uses like that could go in that area. So that's what we would target that for. Obviously it's tough to get commercial uses to commit to anything or show a lot of interest until they know the rooftops are going to be there. Now, they won't spend a lot of time looking at it, although I have received at least one communication from a Leo's convenience store that they would be interested in locating at that site if this were approved. So just some round gross numbers for you. Like I said, total acres of this development's 388 approximately acres. Total dwelling units would be 1,494 on this plan as presented right now. Trails within this community, we have a 10-foot wide trail. We've got 5.12 miles of that trail. Sidewalks, 17.12 miles. And then total green space is about 24.5% of the acreage would be green space on the site. So with that little brief overview and tour, do we have any questions you'd like to ask before I bring Chris up here? Yes.
Could you repeat the green space?
24.5% of the acreage.
Will there be multiple homeowners associations, or will there be?
I think we would anticipate having an overall homeowners association and then possibly some sub-associations when it comes to, for instance, the parks, where they have the single owner that leases out. They'll have their own association. The villas would likely have their own, the two-family, if it's no maintenance. So the way we've done them on developments is you have an overall HOA, and then each neighborhood could have their sub-HOA that would handle issues that relate solely to that.
Will it be utilizing town standards for setbacks on building, or will it be contained in their HOA?
So the document currently as written contains setbacks. The minimum front yards are 25 on a local street, 30 on a collector, 40 on a secondary, and 60 on a primary street. So they go from 25 to 60 feet front yard setback. Side yard setbacks are 5 or 6 feet, 10 to 12 feet between most buildings.
As an example, on the parks, what's the square footage of the homes?
The parks square minimum lot size is 6,250 square feet. The minimum square foot is 1,400 for a ranch, 1,800 for a two-story.
That'd be pretty typical across the board for most of these building sites, right?
If we go to the preserve, it'd be the same, 14 for a one-story, 1,800 for a two-story. The estates, 1,750 for a one-story, 2,250 for a two-story. And if we go to the reserve, 1,500 for a one-story, 2,000 for a two-story. The thought is here that we would provide a product for each stage of life, and you could actually graduate as you grow older, have kids, want to move up in a larger home. You could do that within this development. Anything else? Okay, at this time I'll turn it over to Chris McKinney, and he can explain to you a little bit about the utilities with the town.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time this evening. Chris McKinney, 9210 North Meridian, D.R. Horton. 1,500 units is quite the undertaking and takes a lot of planning. When we started down this path with the city and Mr. Morgan's team, we initially thought that we would have to rebuild a sanitary line approximately 7,000 feet all the way back to the to the station itself. I was pleased to hear most recently in a last meeting that the reason that line had to be rebuilt was a condition with IDEM that the town was under. Jerry Crisp with the sanitary department here in Danville told us that they are no longer underneath those IDEM conditions, and that D.R. Horton would be looking for a contribution on the sanitary project of only of about 1,500 feet. So it decreased substantially. The 1,500 feet project would be on the east side of the sports field, athletic field house, into the town going northeast. And one of the things we had discussed early on, and I think is still in discussions, is that D.R. Horton would look to be reimbursed through SAF credits for our private-public partnership if a reconstruction is required. The sanitary on the site is currently deep enough and is sized adequately enough to take the waste for the entire project. When it comes to the water, the first section of this project that Mr. Moore discussed is approximately 150 units for us. And so what we discussed with the town is that we would be able to hook into the existing sanitary system with the improvement of the first 1,500 feet, and that the town had capacity to serve the first 150 homes with the water. We understand that the water system for the town will have to be upgraded, booster pumps provided, and perhaps even storage, maybe your water tower project in the future. We've been working with Ken Elliott at Banning Engineering, and I don't know that we understand the total scope of work for the water improvements. I do know that we have a clear understanding of the first 150 lots. I also understand that we would have to improve the water line along the east boundary of our project, along the frontage at 36, and part of the development also go on the frontage at 200. We don't completely understand the improvements for State Road 36 yet. We have done a traffic study. It's in its final stages. It'll be produced to the town when available. I would imagine that'll happen in the coming days. Do you guys have any questions for me?
You anticipate any signalization from State Highway?
The scope of the traffic study was immense. It's several hundred pages, and I don't know that we fully digested all of the requirements or suggestions for the study. A&F Engineering provided that study for us, and once that's presented to the town, we will allow Mr. Morgan and his team of experts and A&F Engineering to make the recommendations for the project.
Who will be serving the development, Duke or Hendricks?
That's yet to be determined.
Okay. I didn't know if it was in one area of certified territory of either one of them, or just what?
It's unknown at this time. We're still working to determine who actually is going to service that with electric.
Okay. Any discussion on the type of lighting on the streets? Maybe period type lighting, or?
I don't believe the PUD addresses that, but that's a really good question, and I'll make a note. What we've been doing in other communities that seems to be very popular is a dark sky street fixture that limits light spillage and light leakage or light pollution. Most communities require dusk to dawn lighting on the garage facades, but I don't think we have any plans for a pole light in the yard.
Streets are constructed per town standards then?
That is correct. Yes, sir. We believe we have a natural storm outfall location on site that drains under 36 that can handle the capacity. Will significantly reduce the amount of runoff for the site with our site detention.
Is that where NDOT recently replaced the culvert?
Yes, sir. We know that there will be some improvements on 36. We just don't know to what extent yet.
Mark, let me ask you a question and make sure I understand correctly. This relates solely to sewer and water. Town council and you have been talking a lot about that over the last 18 months.
Right.
Capacity upgrades, interceptors, all that fun stuff that I know just enough about to be dangerous. So did I hear correctly from Chris that there needs to be some upgrades maybe on the just east of this, their project, so on the west end of town? And with that, we have the capacity and all that to handle this project?
Water or sewer?
Sewer.
Okay. Yes, we believe that we're going to be good. By the time he has his build-out done, we'll have the new stations built. The wastewater treatment facility will be probably well into build by then.
Right. Because we are already progressing with expanded capacity at the plant, right? Is that correct?
We're in the process of, not trying to drop any names, we're working with Abstract and Title to procure easements so that we can start pushing this through.
And so, gotcha. And so this would just be a line, a sewer pipe line type situation.
This part now, we're in two phases. We're doing the lines right now, redoing those, getting the easements. Some of the easements are over 100 years old.
Yeah.
And they refer to oak trees and fence posts and things that aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
But the actual treatment plant expansion, we anticipate that project to be anywhere from probably 4 to 7 years out.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, water's the issue that I think Chris is referring to. We are in the process, obviously, this year we'll start a new water treatment facility. That will be at the corner of Sycamore and Sycamore.
Old Pittsburgh Road.
Old Pittsburgh Road, right. It's where the Rotary gazebo is in the park, is where the new water treatment facility will be. We've been meeting with the council on the movement of the Danville Junior Football League. We have also got the Little League Ball Diamonds that we're going to be working with. There's a lot of sports issues and park issues. We're probably going to move the football up to Gary Aiken Park, leave Little League where it is, leave the football tower, and kind of try to double use it. But the water treatment facility that will be built will actually have the capacity for future growth, that the footprint can actually be doubled, and we don't have to expand anywhere out. They can just drop another couple of pumps in, and they can double the capacity.
Couple of questions, timing of that, and how do the lines get to the new plant?
Everything's going to be done. They'll actually start in July this year, probably putting the lines in from the wells. They'll start moving those well lines, just not moving them, I'm saying getting them laid. And then when that facility's in place, those lines will be activated and the water will be shuttled to that. This pump will be used as a backup essentially, if necessary, but we anticipate within probably 5 years that plant we won't even be able to get parts for it.
It doesn't sound like water's a problem. I mean, it sounds like there's a plan in place so that it's not a problem.
The problem we have with that area is distance and elevation. We can get to the water tower at North Elementary. I think Matt has talked about increasing pump size there so that we can push the water to his first 150. The problem we're going to run into, again, goes to out farther west, and I want to say it's probably about where right between the reserves and the villas, I think, is where it's going to go. It'll be a trickle by the time it gets there. So there's talks of above ground storage like we have at North Elementary. There's booster. I mean, there's been a lot of talks of a lot of different options, I guess.
Okay.
As Mr. Moore mentioned with the fire station that is in the athletic field house, sports field area. Last week, I spoke with the chief of fire, and he was asking about the acreage that we were going to set aside for him, and the water will be important for the firehouse, right? So the booster pumps may come into play sooner than later. While I was there talking to the chief, I believe your chief of police stopped, and he wanted to make certain that I got on the record that you make this a public safety building instead of just a firehouse.
I'm sure he does, yes.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Mr. Aiken, one of your questions got me thinking. I should have mentioned during my presentation when we're talking about the streets in here, one of the goals here is to begin the process of a connection to the north on the west side of town to 39. So we've done two things here with the streets. One, at the request of the school corporation, Dr. Schaefer, we have stubbed into North Elementary. Dr. Schaefer would like to see a connection connecting North Elementary to the high school campus and then the middle school campus as well. So this plan provides that connectivity over to North Elementary for the school buses and things like that, so they can get between the high school and the North Elementary campus. The other item is you'll see in the middle of the plan here, it's the two main roads have been built as boulevard roads, so that as you head north into the subdivision, you hit the roundabout, and then sometime in the future planning for an extension to the north that would then go up to 39. And right now, a thought would be that it would be across from where Woodfield and Washington Section 2 entry and exit will be in the future. They're up on 39. That would be the thought. I will say there's also been some discussion with the school corporation. There is some land, there's some topography issues, but the school corporation owns about 9 acres north of North Elementary. We're also exploring whether that's an option through there as well, which I think the school corporation would be fine with, just so long as they would have a cut then on into their North Elementary campus. But
Mark, any chance we can get a regional map up?
No.
Okay.
All right. I'll see if Malin can do it. I can't do it from my computer.
All right. We can revisit that later if need be. Just like to be able to put that into perspective of how
Where that
that
would
all
be.
lines up, John.
sure, yeah.
It's something we've looked at as this commission before. Late last year, middle of last year, we did look at regional maps and had a conversation about that, Gary. And I'd like to revisit that in my mind to see what that looks like. But I think as a commission had a general consensus that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
To try to divert some of this traffic north onto and to rendezvous and hook up with State Road 39 at some point, instead of going necessarily just everything due east.
Yeah.
To divert some north and hook up with 39 would be ideal.
And we think it would also help some of the traffic. So right now, your folks out at Heritage Lake and so forth, they're coming to Kroger, to the grocery store. Well, if we can provide some of that service out here on the west side, then that'll alleviate some of that traffic going through town. Instead, people will have places to stop out on the west side, whether it's restaurant, whether it's retail, or whether it's grocery for them as well. So while he's pulling that up, I will let Lisa come up and talk a little bit about the tax benefit of this development to the community.
So much, John. Good afternoon, everyone. Lisa Claghorn, 9210 North Meridian Street. I want to thank you for your time and congratulations to the new leadership we have here tonight. I love when I get to talk about the good news on projects. Increased assets in a community, as you know, that growth contributes to real property growth, and that yields increased property taxes for your property tax base. I'd like to describe to you the current tax revenue on the particular parcel that this development. Oh, that's a beautiful, I love that you got that. She got this map up right as we were talking about that. Yeah, I love it. We'll talk about the estimated tax revenue per home, per type of home, and then we'll talk through the totals by type and then the overall totals. First, we're going to discuss the current taxable value. There are 4 separate parcels on this particular project site. We have, and I'm not going to get them correct left to right, but we have a large section, the far east large parcel is currently estimated at $66,400 in taxable value, which gives you revenue of $1,328. That is $1,328 for the far east tax parcel, which is right there. The mouse is on that one. There's a little parcel in the corner here, which is very small. It's right on the corner of Mackey, and the parcel. It's right just there, right there. That one is currently estimated at a taxable value of $1,200, which produces a tax revenue of $24. No, you're fine. Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Oh, hello. My dog would be going nuts at this thing. Sorry. Moving to the parcel that's highlighted in blue right now, that is a $379,000 estimated tax value, which is currently generating $7,000 worth of tax revenue. And the far west parcel is $281,000 as an estimated tax value, which is, we've pulled the property cards to show that that is $5,620 in actual tax value received by you guys on that parcel. So when you take the entirety of the parcel, you have a total value of $728,000, and you are collecting $14,562 on the overall tax amount of this parcel, divided into those 4 pieces. Now, next we're going to discuss the individual property values by type, and I'd ask you to reference one of your maps, preferably this map, if you would. We're going to start at the villas, and then we're just going to work clockwise from there. Before I work through those numbers, I do want to point out that these estimates will not include estimates from the parks or estimates from the flats, as those are kind of variable values and not as determinable of a tax value as the other single-family residents that we are more certain of those values. So what I'm going to give you is what we know, which are the single-family residents that are not for rental or apartments. That would be the parks and the flats. So starting with the villas, we estimate that tax value at $2,500 per home. There are 186 of those, which would total $465,000 of tax revenue. In the reserve, that's the next section to the east. The blue section looks a little like a dogleg there. That reserve will hold 140 single-family residents. Estimated the tax value, those houses are going to be $275,000 and $325,000, which will give you a rough tax value in the reserve area for the 140 houses of $385,000 to $450,000, depending on the exact value of those homes.
Lisa, can I interject a question?
Absolutely.
Going back
Please.
to the villas,
Yes, sir.
did you break that down per estimated house? Did you say roughly 2,500 per unit?
Yes,
Did I
it's
write
per,
that down?
it's
What-
per unit, so there's
Yeah. What's the per unit on the reserve then?
the per unit on the reserves is 2,750 on the low side,
Thank you.
and $3,250 on the high side.
Thank you.
All I did was take the 1%
Understood.
cap value of those taxes, so.
Did a homestead deduction or mortgage deduction come into play for these then?
So, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
And again, these are just estimates. Of course, every house will have a different assessed value, and square footage matters, and different lots will have different identifying features, and square footage on the actual lot itself will impact these as well. We're just trying to give a little view of what might be to come. So moving to the estates, if there are no more questions on the reserve.
No.
The estates are 165 lots planned currently in the estate section. That's $3,250 per lot estimated, which would total $536,250 in total for 165 units on the low side. On the high side, we're estimating $4,250 per home, which would give you $701,250 of tax revenue just with respect to the estates units.
I didn't catch the per unit on the low end. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, no, not a problem.
3,000.
The low end is $3,250.
Thank you.
On the high side, it would be $4,250. So somewhere between those two numbers.
Yep.
Moving on to the preserve, we have that as 303 units, and the preserve is in the center of your project map. It's that orange section that fronts US Highway 36. It's the larger of the areas we're discussing. The preserve at 303 units, we estimate $2,250 per unit in tax revenue on the low side. On the high side, we are estimating $2,750 in tax revenue for each of the 303 homes, which gives you a total of $681,750 on the low side in the preserve, $833,250 on the high side in the preserve. When you combine all of those numbers between the villas, the reserve, the estates, and the preserve, again, we're leaving off those areas for the flats and the parks, you have a total on the low side of $2,068,000. On the high side, it's $2,454,000. $2,454,500 is actually that number. The average between the two, depending on, where those home values actually do fall, if you just average those two numbers out, you get $2,260,000, which is still substantial compared to the $14,000 that you're currently seeing in tax revenue for all four of these parcels. That doesn't take into account around $100,000 we're estimating for the apartment tax revenue, commercial sales. Those commercial units will have a sales tax amount that will be contributed to the overall revenues, and then we're donating a beautiful park, I think, and the parks units would likely be around a $400,000 tax revenue as well. So if you take all of that combined, what we do know is $2,261,000. What we think we'll add on top of that with the flats and the parks, and in total we have $2,761,000 of tax revenue yearly. Any questions I didn't catch while we were walking through that ever so slowly?
I'd like to point out that the number she gave at first, which is unapproved.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the unapproved, well, I mean, the unapproved lots there would still be more tax dollars than we're getting because we don't have it annexed in, so.
Oh,
We,
that is a fabulous
yeah,
point.
yeah, we'd be thrilled with that too, you know, so.
I apologize, yes. 14,000 would be better than 2 million. You're 100% correct. I don't disagree with that. My apologies for overlooking that point.
No, those are great numbers, thank you.
And with that, I will allow Mr. Moore to continue. Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. And one thing I do want to point out is initially there had been some discussion about possibly some TIF district, TIF money here, and we've decided that we don't need that. So we're not TIFing any of the commercial.
Typically don't TIF residential.
No, I'm talking about the commercial.
Commercial,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
There is a new procedure to do TIFing residential, but when we talked to our attorneys, they were like, yeah, it's highly not worth it.
So this is an informational meeting.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, we're here to answer questions, present to you where we are right now. Now, obviously, some of this is still subject to change as we continue to meet with community leaders. But this is pretty close to what we'll be presenting to the Plan Commission on March the 8th. We are going to have a meeting with surrounding property owners on March the 2nd. So those always sometimes lead to some tweaks here and there. We're also still working with North Elementary on that entrance area up there at the northeast corner. If we can work something out there to making that more of an entrance, more of a roadway to 39 or not, but could change. But right now, this is where we are with the development.
Could we go to there? Mm-hmm. That's it, right there in the red?
So right there is where that northeast stub that you see on the plan, on the lot field
Okay,
plan.
that goes directly in.
Right there.
Wow,
Is
okay.
that okay?
I didn't realize it was an abutting, that's awesome, okay.
Yeah, I didn't, so I was out there today. I didn't realize that they'd expanded North Elementary since you and I were kids going to school there. The soccer field's gone and so forth, but yeah, so it'd be right there. If you want to take it down a little, I'll show you where the other possible boulevard roadway would be. Okay, take the map down a little bit. Oh, there we go. So right here on this aerial is where you see the boulevard extension to the north, the stub.
Yeah.
And the thought would be is if we could take this north a little, and then we're going to end up over here. So there's Woodfield on Washington, section 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the road here would sort of wind through here to match up with that there. That's all obviously all conceptual at this point. We don't control any of this real estate or own it. But just in our discussions with the town, I think the town is interested in seeing something along that line. Like I said, we're also going to talk with North Elementary, possibly about here as well, because it's our understanding that that's a town desire to get something to 39 from this west side of town to help alleviate some of that traffic.
Yeah.
And keeping in mind that our development, like I said, it's an 8 to 10 year build out. So, the bulk of our traffic won't be there for several years, and hopefully we can continue to work towards one of those outlets.
Yep. Okay. Good. I'm glad that's been a discussion point between you all and the town, because we've been talking about that as well. Okay.
You looking for an endorsement from this group?
If we would like support if we can get it in favor of the plan, in favor of the development. Understand if you have other questions you need us to get back to you with answers on, we're happy to do that as well. But ultimately, yes, we're We see this as a benefit to the town. I mean, the school is in favor of the additional children that this will produce. It'll provide growth that the town needs, provide additional tax base, tax revenue for the town. It's going to help contribute towards the upgrade of the sewer facilities there in that area. So we see this as a benefit to the town, and we're hopeful that the redevelopment commission sees it as a benefit as well.
Have any other?
I am a total rookie, but I do work at the public library.
Yes.
And we're discussing this, and just wondering, discussed with, would impact usage there.
No, but I'd be very interested in that. I mean, I assume more people in town means more library members.
Yep.
Yes.
More staff need more. So I just wondered if the library had ever been, schools have been, which is.
Yeah. No, but I'd be happy to come meet with the library at any time if there's someone there I can talk to about sitting down and getting input. I'd be very happy to do that. Yes. And maybe I can get with you afterwards and get a name from you, or I can give you a card and they can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Great.
would be our director, but yes.
Oh, I'd love to.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Greg, are you still with us? Greg Van Leer. Any questions? Okay. So, any immediate thoughts on the idea of recommendation? Or
I think-
this would be a first impression for us, as we have not done that before.
My problem is that I sometimes get into too many minuscule details. I'm sorry, it's just creature of the past.
That's that old town manager in you.
And so I've got to make sure that, those little things are not our role. And what we're looking at is the overall concept. And resting assured that traffic impact study is going to be done, other impacts, everything's going to be looked at by filtering through the town of Danville and its various boards, staff. So, but overall, I think the concept is good for the acreage that's involved. I would like to see a little more commercial business along US 36, but I do know it's at the developer's land too, and they want to do with it what they think the market is going to provide. So with that, I can provide a recommendation of an affirmative recommendation to the Plan Commission, Town Council, the concept.
Greg Van Leer, are you going to vote or abstain?
Beach.
Sorry, go ahead.
We're discussing whether we're comfortable as a commission issuing a letter of recommendation project, and my question for you is something or abstain and wait for the council. You're on the plan commission. Okay. Understood, understood. Completely reasonable position to take by you, which leaves us three, okay? And I like the concept as well. And we just have to leave it at that if we're going to give a letter of recommendations, conceptual only, because there's so many things, like Gary said, that are down in the weeds and this, that, and the other, and that I would be looking at. Conceptually, it does make sense to me. Gary, are you comfortable? So it will be a broad brush.
And I think that's absolutely fair, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I will point out that I can't recall when we first contacted your office to begin working on the details of this, but the minutia of it is being reviewed with a fine-tooth comb as we head down this path, and working with Ms. Ternay and Mr. Morgan on the project with respect to the details of it. But so I completely understand your position, and I appreciate that, and just happy for your support of the concept, and I look forward to meeting with the public library as well.
All that by consensus.
Consent?
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for the time tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Yep, take care.
Let's move on down our agenda then and talk about the annexation committee update.
Okay.
Lisa didn't
Thank you.
provide me with anything for you. I can tell you that we have met with property owners. We've met with, well, you had the flight school come out. Hendricks County Economic Development Partnership now has a meeting with the Indianapolis Airport Authority. So we were able to, we're moving some things along.
That's great.
I've heard a lot of rumors about the area over, several years. We've had one property owner that we've even talked to about the possibility of a small hotel. So there's a lot of options out in that area. We did meet virtually with the state of Indiana, and they have identified 2 of those parcels as high priority for them to market. They will do the marketing, we don't have to do it, for agribusiness, and which we think is a good fit for that area, obviously. And so we were excited that they are going to push those on our behalf. The ratings were a 1 to a 5, and we actually, this was being done by all the county, the towns, and one of our parcels was given a 4.5, and the other was given a 3.5. So it's exciting. Like I said, the state's going to go out and market those for us, and what they looked at was obviously the access to the small airport, the rail, and the access to US 36. So we've got a lot of things going for us. We really do.
We do, absolutely. And there were a few lingering things we were going to try to get smoothed out before we went gangbusters on actually approaching landowners. Right. And I'm just curious if we've made any progress on those, and I'll just list the ones that I'm aware of. Talking about ag abatement, which I do think we have somewhat of an answer on ag abatement. The tax difference between Center Township and Town of Danville. Zoning, that it would come in under a similar zoning district.
Right. And I believe Plan Commission did change that, did a text amendment to change that.
Good. And then does the railroad affect contiguity?
Great question. We've turned that over to our attorneys because we have annexed to the north side of 36. Then becomes the question of a 4-lane highway, then the railroad, then the properties that are in question.
Right.
And our attorneys are still looking into it.
Great. I'm glad to hear that's been put to them.
Yep.
Great. That's all I needed to hear.
Yeah, they said that was what they call it, a first-year law school stump you in the classroom question.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
And so I'm going to,
We did have that problem resolved some time ago, I thought, Mark, because
Okay.
we got permission from the railroad to annex state highway, didn't have a problem. And we worked with the property division out of Florida
Okay.
or Pennsylvania, I can't remember which one. But they signed a letter of
Okay.
no,
That may be something we'll have to, would that, be
because
if
we
we,
did that to get the airport.
would we have to do a title search to find that letter then, probably?
I don't know that a letter itself would be recorded.
Okay,
No, it'd be in file back here,
okay, I'll take a look,
annexation file for the airport.
I'll take a look for it.
So I want to just take a minute and bring Linda up to speed on kind of what we're talking about. And you can visualize east of town, on the south side of US Highway 36, kind of where Green Cycle McCarty is, and IMI. So back down there is also the landfill. So between the landfill and the airport, or even farther, between the landfill and maybe even 400,
400.
there's a bunch of agricultural fields that lends itself well to an industrial park. Yes. Just farm fields. Just farm fields. For now.
Don't
But
say
so-
just.
But someday, and kind of the vision of the commission is that is our best opportunity for industrial uses, for your higher intensity commercial mixture. And so it's in the county jurisdiction right now, Center Township, and we are talking about a game plan to approach landowners about annexation. Voluntary annexation. So that when development occurs, it's already in the town, we can provide utilities to support that development.
So I've been listening to of previous meetings. So the annexations are not homes, it is acreage. Okay,
We're not targeting any homes
got it. Okay.
that I'm aware of. So that is what a subcommittee's been formed to identify a list of parcels we'd be interested in, who the owners are, and to kind of knock out some potential roadblocks or bumps that I just mentioned to Mark. Smooth over some bumps to where to make it just easier. Okay? Well, give that some thought, and please feel free to pitch us any ideas or opinions. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that, for the most part, is everything that's on our agenda. I'd be happy to open it up for open discussion from either of you, Gary or Linda, or either of our staff members, whatever's on anyone's mind.
I don't have anything to report tonight.
Mark, do you have anything in the library, in the middle workroom that deals with the redevelopment commission, something like prepared by IACT or whatever that spells out the scope and duties and responsibilities? I didn't know if it'd be,
I'll have to look. It may be in Lisa's office, but I'll have to look.
okay.
Yep.
That might help.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The scope would be
Actually,
helpful.
when we first kicked in the RDC, remember when we had people come out?
Good books.
We had some books on that, paperwork there.
From
And we
Veritas and Ice Miller, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
We're here by Indiana legislation. Indiana legislation allows the town to create this commission. And we are, for lack of a better definition, we're kind of the real estate development, redevelopment arm of the local government. to help push, pull,
You might even
Negotiate projects.
consider our Economic Development Commission.
in part. It gets, in part, yes. We
Yes.
definitely work with
Yeah.
those folks. I have one item, an owner at, I think it's at, you know where Jack Lawson's former office used to be on Jefferson Street? Is that Clinton? That might be the cross street?
Clinton and Jefferson.
Yeah, he called to just let me know. He knows we've done the church parking lot, and he just wanted me to know that he's going to be selling that building, and just wanted to plant that seed with us in case we had any interest in it or knew anybody who did.
One time, wasn't there interest on our part along with the Mayberry building there?
We did talk about that, and we,
Structures?
Yeah,
Right.
about raising them and putting parking lots in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so think about that as well. Yeah, in my opinion, it would be, you know, I mean, it's a lot to tackle, but
It is anytime you're thinking about doing an appraisal, purchase price, construction price.
yeah. And, you know, with the church parking lot, I don't know that we would need any more parking per se, but you put those two properties together, there along Jefferson, and something could go in there. Expansion of the downtown into some more new, upgraded commercial space.
Right.
Just a thought.
I'd say Fast Tracks will be breaking ground, I would guess, within the next probably month or two. If I understood what Barry told me the other day.
Good deal. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So the Indiana. Talking about
A block off, a block north.
Just an alleyway.
I know the one you're talking about there. I don't know.
Still is, I think.
I don't know what's going on there. It is vacant. I wonder why.
Which property are we talking? I am
the
so
one that
sorry.
was the florist, right behind Subway, right. north
Oh,
of-
yes, okay. I believe Mr. Moore still owns that, if I'm not mistaken. I think he still owns all the properties. Last I knew, he was using that as kind of his office space. Because I believe he owns the building across the street. He owns the complex,
Oh, okay.
you know,
The
he
apartment?
owns the property, I think.
Okay.
And it may be, I'd have to look on Beacon, but I think he still does. And the last I heard, he was using that as his office.
Okay.
Are there any issues there that you know of, or just curious?
It just seems to be vacant and just side maintenance. I mean, if you're talking.
If you go to the town's website, we have a place to report nuisance violations if
Yeah,
you'd
yeah.
like, so.
Yeah, it's never
Yeah.
really that.
Oh,
It
sure.
just kind of comes in waves.
Right.
Like, it'll get spruced up and then it'll just kind
Right,
of fade away.
yeah.
It's not bad. I just didn't know if it was vacant,
Yeah.
if it was being used.
I don't know. It's the first time it's crossed our radar.
Yeah,
I can tell you as a general matter, and just my personal view, is that I would love to see the downtown grow by another half a block
absolutely.
in each direction with some redevelopment. I
Right.
think it would be wonderful. And so I don't know, I think it's just a matter of time, and market factors to a certain degree have to dictate that. But part of our commission is to help those things move along, maybe quicker than they normally would. So it's something to keep in mind.
I think Chief Roberts came across, I think it was him, I can't remember, I'll have to look, but It was a rendition of downtown Danville in the 60s, and it has all of the businesses listed. And if I can find it, I'll send it to the commission members. I think you'll enjoy it. It's kind of a blast from the past.
Very good. Any final thoughts or comments for tonight?
None from us.
I don't know my age, but I remember that.
What's that?
I remember that handbook.
Yeah.
Got all the businesses located in it,
Yep,
including the IGA store on the south side.
you bet. Coffee cup, and yeah, you could.
When in
When
a
I,
package that was delivered by a welcome wagon.
yep. When I was,
Get a ruler from Baker Hardware.
you bet. When I was a kid, you didn't have to leave town. You could get your clothes, your school supplies, everything was right there on the square. Everything.
House of Hadley.
Yeah.
Had 3 taverns, too.
I was not old enough to go into those. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for your time and commitment to the town. Greatly appreciated, and let's adjourn.
Thank you.